Hey, welcome to another Main Contain Fishing podcast with myself and Binya Outdoors, Mr. Mike Hanson. As always, Main Contain Fishing is powered by Zebro, designed by experts, trusted by pros. We've got a guest tonight in the background. If you're not already on the show, you need to join the show because it's going to be a good one. Mr. Chad Hoover is joining us tonight from his studio over in Alabama. So let's get this thing rolling, Mike. All right, we're going to bring Mr. Chad Hoover on and get things rolling here. Welcome to Main Contain Fishing Podcast there, Chad.
What's going on, fellas?
Hey, probably the most anticipated guest we've had in a long time, I'm not going to lie.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
Yeah. And as always, folks, if you're listening on Facebook, make sure StreamYard likes your Facebook so you can comment under your name, and we'll post this to Spotify come Monday. So just kick it off, Chad. Just tell us, hey man, you're here on the show, and it's your hour. How about that?
I'm doing a little caffeination real quick, a little Mountain Dew Zero, because not immediately after I get off of here, but after I get off of here, I'm gonna go do a little night fishing adventure. It's been 100 and something. I got in the truck this morning. Let me see if I got this picture. I want to show you guys this. Got in the truck this morning, and it was hot, to say the least. Well, I can't find the picture, but it was 127 degrees in my truck. You know, of course, that's the greenhouse effect, but it was 101 outside today. And the bass don't really like that, and fat boys don't really like that either. And so nighttime is the right time for me. You know, I've been doing really well on the buzz bait. Switched over to the jig, the big worm, and the Yamacraw for quite a bit of success. I'm up to all my fish are 20 inches on the Catch 22 challenge, so it's kind of cool, and it sucks at the same time when you catch a 19-inch fish and you're not even excited about it, or you're like, dang, it's not an upgrade. But I've been catching, absolute ton of 18s, 19s, and then quite a bit of 20s. Haven't broke 23 this year, which is crazy. This is the longest I've been into a year, and I can't remember when not breaking 23. My son broke 23, got 23 and 3/4 and a 24.5-inch 10-pounder fishing right in front of me. So that was kind of cool. So I say I've basically backed off so he can catch the big fish. But now it's time for me to double down. And I want to try to hit that 500-inch mark by the end of the year for the top 22-inch fish. That's not the biggest. I mean, this kid Dalton Albright and Robert Harris and some of these guys out of Florida and a couple of Texas guys are just putting up ignorant numbers. Their smallest fish is 24 inches for 22 total fish, which is insane.
Wow.
Right.
But yeah, so I'm doing some night fishing. Like we talked about a little bit before we went live, I've kind of come full circle back to this big blade chatterbait from Z-Man. Put a Zaco on the back of it, and I did a tip on social media with putting a trailer hook on it because I was catching a lot of fish. I was getting a lot of hits and missing them, or I was losing them right at the bow of the boat. I lost an absolute donkey. I mean, I think I set the hook too hard so that when I got it to the boat, I had torn a kind of a big hole in its mouth. And so when I got it to the boat and I turned it to net it, everything just lined up to where it straightened the rod out, shook its head, used the weight of the jig and threw it. And I saw that fish for like 3 days, like sunspots in my face. Big old fish. I mean, she was, that big across the back. So I don't know how long she would have been. Probably, upper 24s to mid 25s. Definitely a double-digit fish. Lost her. I've seen 3 more double-digit fish that I've kind of got like, I know where they live, just haven't been able to get them to eat yet. Fished her through the new moon, couldn't get her to eat. Now it's like coming off of the full moon. So I'm hitting those late morning, meaning not late morning, like 10, 11 o'clock. I mean, late morning as in, early morning is midnight, 01 to, so I'm doing that 2, 3, 4 o'clock window right now. And they're there. I've had a couple of giants, follow swim baits to the boat and turn off right at the boat. And I could see the boil, which looked like a toilet flush. Had 2 big ones hook up on the worm, hang me up in a brush pile. So they're there. And the nighttime is the right time right now. A lot of people overlook night fishing. You don't need a lot of crazy stuff. The stuff you're already using works. Turn your lights on as little as absolutely possible. Every time you turn your lights on, it blinds you and it ruins your night vision. So what I do is kind of close my eyes and stick them in my PFD and just kind of do like a little 30-second countdown. Gets my night vision right, and then I go back to it. And it's like fishing during the daytime. I'm skipping the bait under trees. I'm throwing up against the bank, just like it's daylight. But those big fish, especially in North Alabama, where we have a lot of avian threats, we got a lot of eagles and a lot of ospreys and hawks. They're not getting up shallow when the water clears up in the morning. They're not getting up in that shallow stuff. But at night, it's like fat girls on the dance floor. Like they're up there and they're moving and they're feeding. And a lot of times you can actually just wait and look and listen, and you'll see them rush bait up on the bank, just like it's during the daytime, and then just throw over in there. And it's like, it's fish on. But that Z-Man, the regular jackhammer's been doing pretty good, but that big blade has been out fishing at 3, 4 to 1. And the cool thing about it is, you throw it out and you hold your rod tip up and you just slow reel it, and it moves your boat too because it creates so much drag. So it's like your motor and your lure at the same time. So I'll make a left cast and then a right cast and then kind of a more down the middle cast. And you never even got to pick up your paddle because you can take your rod tip and stick it in the water and scull with it and move your boat where you need to go because of how much drag that big blade's got on it. But you can bulge it, hold your rod tip up and reel it right below the surface. You can let it hit the bottom and shake the blade. And it's like a jig with a rattle. You can throw it out, let it hit the bottom, pick up about a half a, just snatch it up a little bit and slow reel it till it's just ticking along the bottom. Yeah. And you just kind of got to find that cadence that they're looking for. And, really my secret has been, I have structure scan on, I have it on night mode. I'm easing down the bank. I'm looking left on structure scan out away from the bank. I'm looking closer towards the bank. I'm setting it on 40. And I'm staying to where 20 is kind of hitting that dark edge on the side of structure scan. And then the other side, it's completely going out. And when I see streaks on structure scan, that's fish feeding. If you see dots that look like dandruff, that's fish that are stationary. And people don't understand this, I don't think. Maybe they do. But if you see fleck or dots in deep water, that's fish. But on the shallow side, you'll see shadows. They'll make a shadow where they interrupt the signal on the bottom. So when you see that shadow, just in your brain, like, here's the bottom, here's you, that fish is somewhere right here if it's making a shadow over here, and just kind of figure out what depth they're at, or go back over it with DSI or 2D sonar. But I'm really just kind of easing along, looking and listening, throwing to some spots that I already have had success, but really watching side scan. And then when I see fish, I shut it off. There's a lot of hype about forward-facing sonar and 2D sonar and all this other stuff right now. The best thing you can do for yourself is when you find fish, like, turn that shit off. Yep. Because I promise you, you can write this down on a sticky note, stick it on your computer, and 3 years from now, you can be like, damn, Chad said that. They're going to be running from forward-facing sonar like scalded dogs in the next 3 years because everybody's following them with it and throwing it, watching them. Yeah. Okay, cool. If you get one fish that eats it, then stop and start fishing that same pattern, but without forward-facing sonar on. But they can't help themselves. So you're educating these fish. And then the other thing about it is, historically, you catch a fish in a school, you let that fish go, you send it back to that school, there's like one educated fish in that school. So the next time somebody comes along, if they feel or sense something that's similar, they might spook, but they're not going to take the whole school with them. But when you catch half the fish or 3/4 of the fish in the school and you catch them and you let them go and they go back to that school, and you catch another one and they go back to that school, and you catch another one and they go back to that school, now over half of the school is educated, and you hit them with that 2D sonar and they've been stung by that shit like 2 weeks before that. They're like, whoo, I know what that feels like, and they out. Well, when you got like a quarter, half, or 3/4 of the school that's been educated, they gone, and they taking the whole school with them. Because historically, no matter how good you are at graphs and sonar, even with Mega 360 from Humminbird, it wasn't that easy to just stay on a school and educate and whoop up on that same school or year group of fish. And with forward-facing sonar, you can just stay on top of them. And I think what's happening is those fish are getting educated, and the next time they feel that sense through their lateral line and they had their face jerked off the last time they felt it, they're like, I'm out of here. So I think the whole forward-facing sonar thing is going to take care of itself. And that's why, like, I can pull up over a treetop or a brush pile. When I first pull over it in DSI, there'll be 30 fish there. I'll back it down or turn medium chirp up, and there'll be half of them will be gone. Turn up the high chirp, and the other half are like, man, you're crazy if you don't think those fish can feel that stuff. And so to me, once I find them, I try to turn it off as best I can. My depth finder, once I find a brush pile, is a jig. I'll throw it down there. Oh, there's the brush pile. Okay.
Yep.
So,
I'm glad you said that, because I've been saying that. So I have a home lake near me. It's about 20 minutes away. The deepest portion, so most of the fish are resident fish, and it's about 6 feet of water with submergent grass. And I literally have shown people this. I'll have my fish finder on. I'll go around, and then we won't be catching, and I'll like, watch this. I'll turn it off. Within 15, 20 minutes, we'll start catching. And I'm like, and they're like, why? And I'm like, because it's the two things that you said that actually both coincide. One, nighttime fishing has two advantages. One, like you said, they're not worried about predators, but they're also not worried about humans, because there's also a lot less dudes slamming their boat compartments. There's not people out there blasting music. There's not all that human influence. And that fish finder, they definitely know what a sonar ping is. They're just educated to it. And I do the same thing. Sometimes when I'm fishing tournaments, if I'm having a bad day, I turn the fish finder on. Because I do feel like when you get a bunch of guys in a kayak tournament all running around with sonar, they're getting pelted with sonar. And you turn it off, and now all of a sudden you're a quiet space. And it does make a difference. So I'm glad I'm not the only one that has that like conspiracy theory that I do.
It's not even it's not a theory. It's a fact, in my opinion. Like, I've seen it. You don't have to convince me, and you can't argue with me about things I've witnessed myself. Right. I've dropped an anchor off of a brush pile and a rock pile, and then have a bank, and I can see that the fish are moving in kind of like a triangle motion. They'll set up on the brush pile. Yep. Some bait will swim between the brush pile and the bank. They'll run that bait up. They'll follow it down the point. They'll get out on the point, try to come from the other direction, run it up over that point, and then they'll set back up on that brush pile. And I think of the brush pile as kind of like a bench, right? Like in a basketball game. They're out there in the game. They're running. They're playing the game. Yep. All right, you're on the bench now. And there's somebody, So, but I've literally been sitting there watching a brush pile, turn my sonar down to like almost nothing, have it in the leading edge of my cone, have a boat coming across the point, staying out wide of me, go past me with side scan on, and I watch the fish leave the brush pile. And then I sit there 10 minutes, so I'll turn my sonar off. I wait 15, 20, 25 minutes, turn my sonar back on, brush pile's covered in fish. Guess what? Start to see less fish. You're like, damn. Go from 255 to 80. You see less fish because the signature's not as good, but then you can just watch fish continue to leave. Turn it off, wait 15 or 20 minutes, play the old buoy game or just kind of know where it's at. Throw a drop shot over there, throw a Senko over there and let it flutter down to it, throw a jig, fish on. So they definitely get educated to sonar.
Yeah. Let me ask you this question. Do you ever use the old school method of the buoy drop?
Oh, do I? No. Do I never would be a better question. Like I use that more than anything else. There's a buoy in my black pack like all the time. And this is one of the best buoys there is. Take some old braided line and a duck weight and wrap it around a Mountain Dew bottle. You ain't got to go buy a buoy. Just that little skinny spot right there holds line. See them little ridges? That holds line perfect. And then you just basically mark it. Just make sure you pick it back up when you're done. But yeah, I use buoys a lot. A lot.
Yeah, because I find myself running side and down a lot. Mm-hmm. And then when you find them fish, you catch one or two fish out, then you kind of circle back around after you're through measuring them and catching them, mm-hmm. and you're set up on them again, and all of a sudden, okay, where'd the fish go?
Yeah.
I think it's because of the fish are getting weary of the ping signals, just like a submarine.
I don't think they're getting weary of it. I think as soon as chirp came out, fish really started getting more sensitive to sonar. I just think it's in that sweet spot of they pick it up more in their lateral line. I don't know if you guys are old enough to remember CBs, but my papa had a CB, and that CB was so hot, if you were standing by the tailgate, when he keyed it, you could feel it, like make the air on your arm stand up.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's how, like, a sonar signal feels to an animal that's got a lateral line so sensitive. I mean, it's funny. We talk about, like, you see this little bait right here, a little thing. Oh, man, that thing got that little vibration. They can feel it through their lateral line and blah, blah. Well, if they can feel that, how the hell you don't think they can feel an electrical
signal? They can feel 7 BBs inside of a rattle trap at 40 feet. Yeah. They're definitely feeling that sonar.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah. But, yeah, I like night fishing. There's less morons. The one thing you do have to do is you actually have to be a little quieter because there's not all that cover noise out there. So you have to be more cognizant of how much you wobble your boat and sending out pressure waves. You can't drop stuff in your boat. You can't bang your boat with your paddle. Even once you land the fish, you got to be a little bit more discreet about it, or that whole bank is blown out for, an hour and a half, 2 hours, and you can come back later. But yeah, I'm very, very cognizant of how much noise I make, how much I turn my lights on. I watch these guys out at night going down the bank with their headlight on, just shining back and forth. And I'm like, dude, do you seriously think you're going to sneak up on a fish, shining it with a spotlight, turning it off, and then pulling up there? Like, that light hit the bottom. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
No ifs, ands, or buts about it. And so I think a lot of people don't understand how much light pollution is a problem when you're night fishing. I turn off everything. I turn off my battery indicator light on my cameras. I just don't want anything messing up my night vision, and I'll turn the camera on after I catch a fish. I tried to play the game of filming it and turning my headlight on after I hooked one. I actually just posted like a little clip on Facebook earlier, about 2 hours ago. But it's just problematic because you catch a fish, you turn all them lights on, you just blow everything out, which I'm going to do some more of it because I really want to show off like how freaking awesome night fishing is. Or maybe I shouldn't. Maybe I should just keep it like, all right, if you know, if you don't.
It's tricky to film at night. It really is. There's not a good way to do it because you have to have quite a bit of light too. Those action cameras, once it gets to a certain part of dark, they do not, they don't focus, and it's so grainy that it's not really worth using unless you basically have to flood yourself out. So yeah, it's definitely.
So we have a new camera. Well, not new. We have a camera that we didn't use for a long time called an AX700 from Sony. It actually has night vision mode on it.
Yep.
So I'm going to put that on a monopod that's a little stouter and put it in a rod holder and use the tethered tube or the tethered straps to pull it to kind of preload it a little bit, or wedge some, that foam that comes in like when you order a battery or something. Yeah. Cut some of that and wedge it in there. And we're going to play around with that a bit just to see how that works for getting the blow up, the hook up, the jumps.
The good thing about those two is they're infrared, so they probably don't put out a lot of light either.
I love it when a big fish jumps at night, just right at the bow of the boat, and just does it, So yeah.
The good thing about night too is you can if you're listening, like you said you got to make less noise. The other good thing though is you can hear those fish moving around too.
Oh, there's no doubt.
You'll hear pads like getting rustled when they're swimming through them, grass or something, or if they start like going up top, you hear that and you pick up on it. Not to mention, that's one of the things I do a lot. It's one of the lakes I fish near. I wait for the bullfrogs to come out. When you start hearing that activity, then that's when I switch to a topwater, because I know the frogs are out. So now I'm going to throw what they're already expecting to be out. And that's, or you hear the bluegill start to pop, that popping noise off the bottom of the pads.
Yep. I had a guided trip the other night, and I told the guy, I said, you hear that? That popping? That's brim feeding in the pads. And those brim, when they're feeding up, they're blind by the moon. And that's when bass, wreck them.
Yep.
So, yeah.
And that's what I do. I listen for that. I'm like, okay, now it's time to get out that color bait or that profile or those little things, dude. That's the things that you don't get without time on the water. It's those little details that's how you know what, like, that's the first thing I do when I get to the boat ramp. One of the first things I do before I even hit the water, I look at the water clarity at the ramp, what bait fish are swimming around that dock. Because if the bait fish are brim versus a pumpkin seed versus a traditional bluegill, I now have an idea of what color I'm going to throw on. So you get that baseline of what's there now, because that's going to give you at least a starting point. And then, like you said, at night, I love night fishing because I hate hot weather. I'm in Vermont, so hot weather for me is deadly because I'm not used to it at all. So when it gets super hot, I would rather be there at 4:00 in the morning or after dark because the temperature is at least tolerable.
Right. Yeah, I mean, what's crazy is like this week it got a little hotter at night, like the low was only in the 80s. Last week we had 95, 96, 97. It was 59, 60, 61 lows. So going out at night, I call it you get a second spring. Yep. If you go out night fishing in June, basically 30 days on both sides of the actual official day of summer, June 20th, you get a second spring if you'll get off your ass and go night fishing. I get it for people who have like a real job, not like me, a REEL job. You got to get your schedule adjusted, but I'm sleeping like during the day and I'm fishing at night right now. So it's not really that hard. But yeah, and that's what a lot of this stuff up here is for. A lot of people don't realize, they think a lot of that's all musky baits, but I'm throwing a lot of this stuff for largemouth bass, like this right here.
Water displacement baits. So
I'll put that dude right there in freaking 20 foot of water over grass that comes up 8 foot off the bottom, and that thing just it'll get your arm broke. And that's a 2-ounce lipless crankbait. So,
oh wow.
Yeah. And this dude right here.
Does that have rattle in it too, or is it just a silent?
It's got a knocker.
Okay. That? Yep.
More of a knock. You get kind of get a little bit of the higher pitch from the blade or from the hooks. And
right. You got big hard
rings. You get that low pitch. You get that low pitch from the. So I have the black one in the kayak, but this dude right here, the whopper plopper in the full 130 size. Man, they murder that thing at night. And you'll catch fish sometimes that might be only that much bigger than the bait. So it's not even just one of those, like, you got to have a 20-pounder to eat it. Little 2.5, 3-pounders will eat that thing too.
That's a big misconception with those baits. Like, I catch a lot of 12-inchers that their mouth doesn't even fit around the bait.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, they don't care.
That's like me running up trying to eat you. It's crazy. It doesn't even make any sense.
Exactly.
They do it. Yeah. Trying to think.
What's really funny is when you catch like a rock bass or a perch on it, and you're like, "What were you trying to accomplish?"
Yeah, all of these baits, man, they're all baits that I started out. I bought them as musky baits when I lived in Tennessee, but every one of them, with the exception of maybe some of this goofy stuff that it probably will work. I haven't caught bass on them, but like this little thing right here, which is it's like a custom bait from a guy out of Wisconsin, but it's got a little small prop on the front, a littler prop in the middle, and then the same thing backwards in the back, and the hooks stay out straight on the back right here, and then this one swings, but it's got clank, it's got buzz, it's got plop, it's got it all, and they will murder that thing. And it's a musky bait. But I love fishing stuff like that.
So Chad, I saw a video that you put out with a buzz bait the other day that had a trailer hook on it.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't you put a trailer hook on a buzz bait?
Yeah.
So does that affect how the blades run or no? It's almost like a spinner bait.
So when I tear up a frog, the double hook frog hooks that go through a hollow body frog, I take those and put a piece of heat shrink over the eye, and then put another piece of heat shrink over the eye. And a lot of times I'll hook those to a buzz bait because now I got like a triple threat. I got the regular hook running, and then I got the two behind it. Yeah, I call it the weapon of bass destruction. Like they hit that thing and they're 100% hooked. But no, it doesn't mess with it. In fact, when I usually run a trailer hook is because I want to slow it down. So like that's one of the times that I'll fish, like say the counter strike from Booyah versus like a single blade faster buzz bait. And so a lot of times when I'm fishing that, I want it to stay in the strike zone a little longer. And so because of that trailer or because of that trailer hook, you get a little bit more drag and a little bit more lift. So you can actually hold your rod tip up and you can reel it a little slower. And it's just like kind of and it's staying in the strike zone longer. And man, I can see them on side scan sometimes, and they're in like 8 foot of water, and I can see their shadow. I'm gonna tell you guys a trick. I don't know. I kind of said I wasn't gonna ever say this, but I'm gonna tell you a trick. So if you're looking at side scan, and then here's the center line going down the middle, and then you see the fleck for the fish, and then you see the shadow over here. Click on that, and then click on that, and the distance between them is basically, let's say this is 20 feet, right?
Right.
The distance between this is basically 3 times. So whatever the distance between here is, that fish is 3 times that distance off the bottom. So
okay,
it's Pythagorean's theorem.
That's right.
But like, it's a real easy way to figure out how deep they are with turning back around and driving over them with 2D sonar and potentially spooking them. So if you just, I don't know if people know this, but you can click on your graph screen and you can mark a spot, and then you can click on the other spot and mark a spot. And I save 2 waypoints, and then I measure the distance between those 2 waypoints on my graph. And then I go, okay, that's 8 feet. I'm in 20 foot of water. That fish is 4 foot off the bottom. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So,
yeah. Now, did you say earlier about trailer hook on your chatterbait too?
I'm sorry, say that again.
Did you say earlier you're putting a trailer hook on your chatterbait too?
Oh, 100%. 100%.
See that right there. So I've been using that freeloader a little bit, and I'm having problem with they're hitting that just the whippy tail, or like sometimes I'll use this a regular fluke, and I've been having that problem. And I never thought about using, but that's something I might try because I am getting trailers back without the tail on it. And now that the trailer
it keeps them from biting the tail off. It hooks them up when they miss the main hook, and it also helps them stay hooked when you do hook them, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, it does, because I did the same thing that you do. I had a big one the other day that I lost because I did the same thing. Like I opened up a pretty good hole on the side of his mouth, and he shook off at the boat. With that trailer hook, that makes sense because you're going to have another opportunity to get a point in their face. That's going to maybe help you keep that fish all the way to the boat. Because that's sneaky.
Let me just play this for you, for everybody else.
Okay.
Right now, nighttime is the right time. If you're not night fishing, you should add it to your arsenal. And one of my new favorite lures for nighttime fishing, I've been a big spinnerbait blade for a long time, but this big blade chatterbait from Z-Man has upped my catch rate substantially. But let me show you another tip. Add a trailer hook. Add a trailer, obviously. My favorite is the Yamamoto Zako. I put it on first, and then I put the trailer hook on there. And guys, not only does that increase your hookup ratio, it definitely increases your keep them hooked up ratio. So the 1, 2, 3 punch is go night fishing right now. Throw the Z-Man big blade chatterbait and add a trailer hook to it. And you want to add the one with the eye because of the way chatterbaits rock back and forth. You don't want it free swinging. You want it to stick off the back, so it's staying right there off the back of the tail. That fish comes up and swipes at it, and he catches him in the corner of the mouth, even if he misses the main hook. So fish at night, throw the big blade, add a trailer hook.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to pick up some trailer hooks for that reason.
In fact, I lost like 6 trailers one night, and I was like, you know what? I got something for your ass, and I stuck a trailer hook on there. I said, go ahead now. And I was thinking it was like little peckerheads, little 14 inches. The first fish I caught when I did it was a 21 and a half, and I was like, okay, I got you.
Yeah, because they're sometimes they're hitting it from the side, and they're just missing that hook.
Yep. So Chad, we got a question from from Tweezy bass fishing movement. He says, what colors are y'all throwing at night? He says might have to go out tonight and got to get an upgrade for the KBF tournament he's in.
So if it's not a full moon, I'm throwing black.
Yep.
During the full moon, I'll throw something bright. I'll throw white. I'll throw brighter colors. I'll even throw like a darker, like a green pumpkin, but I'll put like a brighter colored trailer on there. I'll be honest with you, man. Like I bought into that dark bait, black bait, silhouettes better at night thing for a long time. But guess what? Everything's black at night. So just hold it up in front of the sun, the moon, and it's black. So to me, it's more important that you're out there and that you're fishing than what color you're throwing. So if you're like, oh, I don't got any black baits, I ain't going tonight. That's some BS. Just go, because they'll murder they'll murder this stuff up here that's all baitfish colored. It's got more to do with moving water than it does the color. And then
the water displacement's more important
I think the silhouetting part helps a little bit. And I think that if you got a full moon and it's moving through there and it's moving really fast and it's glinting, they got a chance to run up through the middle of that glint and miss it. But if you got something a little darker, it'll silhouette better. But I'll tell you this, on a new moon, I'm throwing a white bait because then I can see it. And it ain't nothing better than reeling it. And, especially with glide baits, and you pull it and then you see it and then it's gone. And it's kind of like fishing a white bait on the bed. Yeah. When you know it, you can't see it. You know the bass has got it. So I do that sometimes at night. I was throwing a bone-colored whopper plopper the other night, and they were murdering it. I was throwing a black Plop Master, which is a new bait from Livingston, and it's got the EBS technology in it. Dude, that thing, when I don't know if it's 100% hit the market yet, but you throw it out and you twitch it, and unlike a whopper plopper that sits like this, when you twitch it, it goes like this. This thing sits level, and it's a little bit more subtle plop. It's more buzz than a plop, but I've thrown it out and just twitch, and let it sit and let that EBS chirp, and have had them, I'm talking about fold themselves in half on it, sitting still. I'm like, dude, this thing is money. So, yeah, it's more about vibration and sound, in my opinion, at night than it is visual, right? To a certain extent. And here's another one. Just like I was talking about with that shadow on the bottom, if you got a full moon and you're going down the bank and then the moon's over here and you're here, you're casting your shadow onto that bank just like you are during the daytime, and you're spooking those fish. But what you can do is you can kind of pull out and you can throw your bait like this, and as it's coming down the bank, that shadow is going along the bottom. Those fish see that and they look up instinctively. It's just like, have you ever been out in your yard cutting the grass or doing something and an airplane flies over and the shadow kind of crosses in front of you? Well, you naturally go and you know where to look, right? Well, the same thing with bass. They see that shadow going across the bottom. They naturally go, ooh, easy meal, when they take off, because it's silhouetted between them and the moon, but they initially saw it by seeing the shadow going down the bank. So think about the moon and the moon shadow when you're out fishing at night, because your moon shadow is actually probably more spooky for fish than your sun shadow, because the moon shadow, their senses are heightened. They've moved up. They're vulnerable. And so now if something kind of goes in between them and the moon, they're like, whoa, what was that? And they're gone. Just like everything at night is spookier for you, it's probably spookier for them as well, because they're operating off of less senses. So all the senses are more heightened, kind of like the movie Daredevil. Same concept, Yeah.
So do you like to fish on a new moon or a full moon?
Yes.
On a new moon. You like to fish on a new moon?
Both of them. I like them both. The best daylight topwater bite you'll ever, if you don't get anything else out of this, you know how when the teacher used to knock on wood? The best topwater bite you will ever get in your life is a new moon morning feeding time coinciding with daylight. If you can get your feeding time where an hour of it is before daylight and an hour of it's after daylight, so where you kind of straddling daylight, bro, if you're not fishing that day, like if you got a wife that plans something on that weekend, you just need to learn her something. Like, listen, I know your friend Gertrude's getting married this weekend, and we're invited, but my ass ain't gonna be there. It's a new moon, topwater bite. Or the beautiful thing about it is you can go out and fish all night. You can fish that thing and be off the water by 6:30 and be home before they even wake up. So yes, the new moon is personally my favorite. I prefer to take people out on the full moon to get them used to night fishing, so it's kind of halfway daylight. But I personally, if I had to choose new moon or full moon, I'm fishing the new moon.
Sweet. You're giving a lot of information out tonight, Chad, that I think everybody's enjoying. So
Well, thanks. I appreciate
Well,
that.
and a lot of people don't think about that too. Is
Yeah.
like that does affect the bite window because they can eat later, or they can eat earlier in that case.
Right.
So like that's also going to delay. You're not going to get that 6 a.m. bite necessarily after that either because they've kind of already been eating since 1 a.m. So you're going to want to go later that night because that morning window that used to work at 6 a.m. when there was a full moon the night before, they're already full by the time you get to the lake. So that's one thing that I definitely pay attention to because about it, for them that is morning. They're just 3-4 hours earlier.
And to be honest with you, even though it's hot and it kind of sucks, on a full moon, I love letting everybody go to the lake. I love letting everybody kind of blow out the lake, blow out their morning bite, go out there and get disenfranchised, go home about 11. There's the Indy 500 in reverse about 11 o'clock. And then midday, the whole midday is wide open. And honestly, on a full moon, the midday is the strongest bite. And so it's like I learned this hunting. You watch all these guys go blow it up in the morning. It's like an Indy 500. They get in the tree. They get out of the tree at 10 o'clock. I go climb the tree at like 11, start rattling, throw a grunt call out there and have 3 bucks coming to me like a damn chicken on a chain. So that same concept I use for bass fishing. So the reason that I like the new moon more at night is the daytime new moon feeding times are somewhat weaker, and there's 2 halfway ones. On a full moon, I would just as soon go out in the middle of the day and get up in the duckweed and get up in the lily pads and get up in the cover where bass boats can't go and know that those fish are going to be active. And I just got to put it in their face. You know what I'm saying? I use a lot of analogies, and I'll tell you this, like a new moon, a full moon night is like going to the bar at 8 o'clock and buying this girl drinks all night. And then some dude swoop in and start talking to her with 30 minutes to go and leave with her. Whereas a full moon midday is like waiting until the bar's closed and all these drunk girls come walking out and they just like, hey, you want to go to Waffle House? And you spend $13 instead of $150 and they're ready to go. So that midday bite on a full moon is like Waffle House at 2:30 anywhere in the South. Or probably it's probably universal. That's probably like a universal thing.
Yeah.
But they're ready.
I definitely seen the same thing for sure.
Yeah, they're hungry. There's no small talk. You put a bait in their face and they're going to eat it. It's just
Well, it's just like the forward-facing sonar thing. They're educated too. They know that there's anglers there from 6 a.m. to 11, and from 11 to 3 or 4. Yeah, there's probably pontoon boats and jet skis out there, but they're not getting hooks in their face, and they're not necessarily highly intelligent. But if you think about it, if every time you go to eat something at 8 a.m., you get a hook in the mouth, but every time you eat something at noon, you don't, when are you going to start eating? Yeah. Bass are just working off of what is danger, and if it's danger during certain windows of time, I've had the same thing. I got a lake near my house that I will never go to before noon because I will not catch a damn fish from daylight till noon. Yeah. But from noon to 4, you'll slam them. It's just how that lake works.
And what I look for is I look for matted grass. I look for lily pads. I look for what I call non-bank shade and cover because everybody's going to beat up the banks. But if you watch the video where I caught the 10-6 last year, that was all duckweed. So that water was 3 foot deep with little rises to 1.5 feet, 2 foot, and little saddles to 4, but pretty consistently about 3 foot deep. And I had marked out the ditch that ran through this flat in the wintertime. So go out in the wintertime when all the grass is dead and kind of look for the ditches or zigzag back and forth. And when you see your graph, do this dip, mark both sides. And so if you go out in the wintertime, and let's just say that this is I'm just going to do a little quick. So you're out on a pad field, right? And there's lily pads everywhere. And everybody's out here just casting like all this whole area is created equal. And you went through there in the wintertime and marked your little ditch going up through there. And you know where the stumps are on the edges of the ditches and stuff. I can't tell you how many times I've been fishing right next to somebody else and I'm getting a blow up every third cast. And they're looking at me like, dude, I'm throwing the same lure in the same place, doing the same thing. And I'm like, yeah, but you ain't putting it in the spot on the spot.
Yep.
Right. And I went out there and worked my ass off during the winter to map this ditch out. So I sure as hell ain't going to be like, come here, let me show you exactly where they're at. I mean, now if you're fishing with me on a guided trip, I'm going to be like, hey, cast right there. But what I'm saying is do some off-season work. Or how about this? Like get on Google Maps and just look for dark grooves or bright green grooves through dark water, which is basically clean water going through a mud flat, which is then going to become lily pads. When the water comes back. If you get Google Earth Pro, you can grab the little slider and you can go back and forth and it'll show you the changing of all that good stuff. So that's another little.
That's a sneaky one, is you can see where the vegetation grows in and grows out, and that's the good one.
And then you can even go down that ditch and just mark it, and you can download that stuff and import it to your GPS. I personally do that, but I personally prefer that toe factor, getting out there and going along and finding that ditch, marking the spot on my GPS, because I can then bring up my graph, split my screen, and you will never, ever, ever, ever see a video from me where the shot over my shoulder is showing my depth finder on chart mode and whatever other sonar I'm using, ever. Because I got too much information on that side of the screen right there. I mean, I mark my waypoints are named. I've got a little shorthand formula that I use, but they're named what they are, how they are. I'll actually make casting waypoints, like where here's the spot I want to fish.
Whole position.
Here's where you should be to cast. And I even make alignments. I do a thing called rifle sights. So I'll put 2 waypoints back here and another waypoint over here. And on my chart, I can turn and line up between the two. And then if I'm between the 2 back sights and the front sight is in line, I know if I cast there, I'm going to hit that spot without having to get close enough to it or get on top of it or potentially spook the fish. And that is a tip that I tell you right now. I call it electronic buoys. You mark the spots on your graph, and sometimes before I catch the fish, I'll have it up. When I edit it, you're not going to see that. But I'll be using the go-to mode where I'm letting the thing point to where I need to be. So I don't even have to look at my little triangle that represents me in the waypoint. I just hit on go-to mode, and then the whole compass is lined up, and I just keep it in the V until I get to where I'm at, and then I turn it on, and then I zoom out and go, okay, here's where I'm at, and then I reorient myself and then start casting. And last year, I remember one time I went to this flat. It was covered in duckweed. I made like 19 casts, and I caught 7 fish because I wasn't casting to low percentage areas.
Yep.
I was casting to high percentage areas. And if you put in some time on the water and you put in the research and you learn, you can get that effective and that deadly. And I'm going to start teaching some more of this. I've really been kind of reaffirming a lot of these theories for myself, because there was about 5 or 6 years where I was hosting my show. Oh, it's more about the guests. It's not about me showing what I can do. I'm not trying to catch big fish. I'm just trying to make this show more attainable for the average person. Everybody can catch big fish. So, we're about to swing the pendulum back in the other direction to say, why aren't you catching big fish? Because you're not trying hard enough. You're not working hard enough. You're not putting in the time off the water, the planning, the time on the water, the map study, all of those things. There's a reason the same people catch big fish consistently, and some people catch a big fish and it's like the only one they've ever caught. Well, you put the work in, you put the time in, I'll tell you something right now. My son is quickly evolving into one of the best anglers I know. That little sucker. We go out the other night when he catches this 10-pounder, and he basically grasps this point. And he's like, yeah, there's a big fish on that point, but we're past the feeding time. I don't want to educate her. I don't want to overpressure her. So I'm going to mark the spot, and I'm going to come back after daylight. It won't be the feeding time, but she'll be pulled up tight to cover. There's 2 stumps over here. I'm just going to throw a bottom bait over there and see if I can get her to eat. And I am not shitting you. That little bastard calls it in the middle of the night, comes back there the next day, lines his kayak up, tells his buddy where to position, and gives him a couple casts over there to try to catch her. And he's like, no, man, right here. Fuck, boom, floats down. He's like, oh, dude. And then he hollers at me, and I'm across the lake, and I look over, and I think he's got a catfish on because this thing is just turning in. Rod's like in the water. The boat's turning. And I'm like, he done threw a jig or a creature bait up on a log or up on a stump and got one of these big flatheads, and he's about to be dealing with that for 20 minutes. And then I hear him like, I said, should I come over there? He's like, yeah, dude, I guarantee it's my personal best. I'm like, whatever, dude. And then he goes, oh my God. And I look over there and I see the fish reach, and I'm like, oh crap. So I head over there, and it was 10.3 pounds, 24 3/4 inches. And I was like, proud papa, because he put all that together.
You were saying too is crazy because, like, I know when we used to do king salmon fishing, and this holds true with bass too, you would catch fish at 220 degrees, but if you were going 215, 230, you wouldn't catch them. The current affected the bait that much. The same thing happens with bass. Like, you can literally throw to an area. That's actually one of the things I think that people misunderstand when they say, well, 2 guys in a boat, one guy's catching, the other guy's not, and the guy in the back's catching, the guy in front's not. He's hitting a different angle when you go by that spot. He's bringing that bait north to south, whereas you're bringing that bait east to west. That does make a difference, especially 100%. When there's current.
100%. Yeah. And, right now you'll get this thing that happens sporadically in the morning, sporadically through feeding times, where they'll chase bait up, blow it up, and then everybody's sitting there waiting for them to come back up. How about this? Where did they go when they're not chasing the fish? How about get just off the bank and ease along and find that first piece of cover adjacent to where you just saw them blow bait up? Largemouth bass are like fat dudes. They're not out there running around in a field. No. They're out there doing the least amount of work and then heading back to the shade tree, drinking a big old glass of sweet tea. And the bigger they are, the smaller their run it down zone is. And a lot of times those big fish will hang off the bank, let those rats run up on the bank and chase that bait and scatter them. Well, for the 20 shad you saw them scatter, there's 400 that went the other way. And that big old female just said, oh, and just sucked them all in and said, thank you. And so, like, there's a video on my Facebook page from like last week where I had a guy and I was teaching him how to buzzbait fish. And I said, look, man, I'm going to tell you right now, you can catch a lot of fish on buzzbait, but if you want to catch the big ones, you really got to get off the bank. So do you want to have fun and catch them on a buzzbait? Right now we got these, it's not fry garters, but what it is you got these young of the year bass, and those bucks will eat the crap out of those young of the year bass after the fact, right? So I'm like, they're chasing those young of the year bass. There's big wads of them, and they're chasing shad because it's post shad spawn by about a week. Well, he wanted a buzzbait bite. I was like, all right, cool. I said, if you don't mind, I'm going to hang out here a little deeper. And I backed out, and I saw like a rock pile, brush pile combo, threw the Ichi worm from Yamamoto past it, scooted my rod tip until I touched it. And as soon as I felt cover, I just laid my line on the water and did nothing. Because right now, do nothing is a big thing. It's just let it
go. About that. I made a video about that with the wacky rig. I'm like, leave it alone.
I'll tell you this. Big bass are like a cat. You ever see those videos where they take the laser pointer and the little cat will chase it, but the big cat will just follow it with its head, and then when you stop it, it'll jump on it? Well, letting a bait sit is the same thing as taking that laser pointer and moving it around and then just dropping it. And so what I'll do a lot of times is I'll do an agitation cast where I'll throw a chatterbait through there, a lipless crank through there, something like that through there a couple times. Then I'll throw a worm back in there, boom, let it hit the bottom, scoot it up till it hits cover, and then just lay it down and just wait. And I mean, it was 40 seconds between the time that I stopped moving it and when that fish picked it up. And I know you probably think you let your bait sit a minute and a half. The next time you go out there, like, count it out while you're letting it sit. You're moving your bait every 4 to 7 seconds. And if you let it sit 30 seconds or more when you know you're in the strike zone, bro, you're going to get your arm broke. Because right now it's the law of conservation of energy. They don't want to run something down and expend more energy than they're going to get in caloric return for the amount of energy that they expended to go get it. They'll wait till night, or they'll wait till something comes up easier on them. That's why crawfish and bluegill and brim are more targeted during the summertime, because they have higher fat content and they ain't got to run them down. They wait. They wait and they let them fish get close enough, and then they just, it's like you ever seen the female pride of lions, where the females are out there running through the grass like as a group of 5 or 6, and they're running these gazelles down, and the big male's laying down in the grass and just waits for one of them to run by and just paws it, smacks it to the ground and grabs it by the throat and just walks away. It's the opposite of that in the bass world. The big females are the ones that are sitting up there waiting, and the little dumb males are the ones running around chasing stuff everywhere.
And they got that big because they didn't burn off all their energy chasing food.
Exactly.
That's right. So you're talking about ditch fishing earlier, Chad, in lakes, but let's break it down to the river side a little bit. Here in South Georgia, the rivers are real low right now. My attention's to them ditches along the banks, right? And when the water level gets back up, that's what I like to fish is dragging them ditches, or throwing the buzz bait up there in that ditch and just rolling it out. But you're talking about a buzz bait bite, they'll hit it offshore, which a lot of my river fish come off about 6 to 7 foot in the middle of the river, because the fish is following it out and it just waits till it gets in the middle of the river to hit the damn buzz bait. But is that a good philosophy about learning an area when an area is low with water? Is go ahead and map it out and get things kind of set in your mind.
So in the rivers, like what you're talking about, if you think about it, if a log starts floating down the river, eventually it's going to turn sideways and it's going to float until it's like a dog with that bone in its mouth trying to go through a door. It's eventually going to catch. Well, then what's going to happen is the next log coming down is going to catch on that log. Then the next log coming down is going to catch on that log. If you're ever looking down a river and you see water's all kind of got some nervousness to it, and you see a slick in the middle of the river, cast there.
Yeah.
Because there's a log jam or something that's creating turbulent eddies on the edges, but there's a big slack water area. And, if you're trying to catch spotted bass or smallmouth, you want to be in the push water. You want to be in the, in that faster stuff. You want to catch big, fat, largemouth. They're in the slack water. They're lazy. Right. And, man, the best spot on damn near every river is the middle, because it's the part that gets the most overlooked. Everybody beats up the banks. But you throw a jig or a big worm out in the middle of a river and scoot it till you feel something and stop it. Let the current grab the line and move it back down the river a little bit and just hang on. So I firmly believe I fish the river middle to bank, not bank to middle.
Right.
Especially with topwater, because they're laying out there lazy. Here comes this slurp, 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 slurp thing coming along. And golly, do you get some violent topwater bites. Now, you're going to get some on the banks too. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
But there's just something about middle of the river, completely overlooked water that everybody runs through, but nobody really fishes.
Right. Yeah, because especially on the Geechee River, which is back behind me here, and you're familiar with it because you got to fish it recently, being down here with your parents. You see all these brim fishermen, red breast fishermen, they're just steady throwing to the bank. But I like to get on the bank and throw back to the middle of the river. Just because I was taught that away from my grandfather and my uncles, things like that. Well, I like to ease up current, cast up current,
or cast against the current and bring it with the current, because that's what the bait's going to do.
Right.
And I was actually fishing the Canucci more than I did fish the Geechee once, but I fished the Canucci twice. And that Canucci is like swift water, same thing. Outside bends are slack, but there's so much cover out in the middle that creates these little bars. Most of those sandbars in the Ogeechee and the Canucci started out as a log that got jammed, and then sand just kept building up on it until it covered it up. But initially it was a log jam or something that created a current break for that sand to pile up on. And then, on the Geechee specifically, one of the more successful places there, I used to have an uncle that lived there, and he would fish it a lot. I didn't fish with him a lot, but we would compare notes. On the Ogeechee, man, it was almost exclusively shell beds where I did really well on the good bass. And most of the shell beds are on the predominant down current side coming out of a creek drain. So if a creek drain comes out into the main deal, when it comes out and turns to go with the normal current, that inside of that bend is going to be a shell bed. And if you can get up on those shell beds, and the best way to fish them is to not pull right up on them and fish them. The best way to fish them is just, so if this is the current coming and going like this, is to sit over here facing the current, throw across that shell bed and bring it down, but not up in the creek that drains it, but throw across it and bring it across
45 it, yeah.
Oh my God, that's the way to get
your
arm broke. And man, I'm gonna tell you something that doesn't get fished enough on the Ogeechee, but it is deadly, is like a square bill or like a DT6 over those shell beds. Bruh. And you can throw a spinnerbait 12 months out the year on those rivers, and people just don't. They just don't. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but we're a lot of these guys, Texas rig worms, because the current, when the river's up a little bit, the current's a little fast, and they're just pitching and flipping whatever laydowns. But I've learned going from a boat world to a kayak world is just like you said. I throw a lot of, I don't throw a spinnerbait as much, but I do throw like a 2 to 4 foot, maybe like a hybrid hunter or a small crankbait like that.
Yep.
Just something, because I don't know it. I guess because of there's so much brim population in there that's what they feed on more.
Man, I'll tell you,
hybrid hunters are sneaky. You can do some sneaky stuff with those hybrid hunters for sure.
I'll tell you something else that's like absolutely deadly on the Ogeechee. I didn't get to try it as much on the Canucci. My buddy KK, who I grew up with, is like dialing that river in pretty good. But on the Ogeechee, tubes, man, throwing tubes on that joker and swim jigs. Holy crap.
Yeah,
but putting an egg sinker in a tube, putting an earplug in the back of it and rigging it weedless and just throwing it out there and letting it fall straight down and then scooting it across the bottom. It looks like a crawfish when it's on the bottom, and it looks like a brim or a bluegill when you're reeling it back to the boat. Man, that is one of the most underrated lures on those type of rivers. And then, so a tube, but then a swim jig. Everybody kind of overlooks a swim jig because chatterbaits have gotten so popular, because it's like it gets down faster, it has less resistance, but it creates that bluegill brim profile when you're swimming it. But you let it hit the bottom, now it's a crawfish. You know what I mean? So swim jigs are really, really, really deadly in that tannic water. And especially when you got those fast seams and that fast current, throwing it in those seams. Holy crap, dude. Oh my God.
Well, the beauty of a swim jig too is it becomes, it's like I've started doing a bunch of videos because I do a lot more kayak fishing than from my bass boat. The swim jig is a versatile bait because people don't think about the fact that a swim jig's a jig. So you throw that into a laydown and drag it and then swim it back. So now you've gotten 2 different retrieves in a single cast. So now I don't have to have, when you're in a kayak, you're limited on how many rods you can have. So when you're in a tournament,
actually you got 3, because if you'll pitch it up and let it hit, and then as it's swinging and you raise your rod tip, as it's swinging into cover, that's one retrieve. Scoot, 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 pause, scoot. I actually just did a Facebook post called Scoot, Scoot, Pause, Scoot, Scoot, Pause. And like scoot, scoot, all that's there to do is to kick up the silt, not stroke it. You're not jerking it up off the bottom. You're just scooting it along to kick up some silt to make that fish go, what was that? And then you scoot it again to really give them another location and then pause it. And as all that silt dies away and your bait sit there and all you got to do is wiggle it, not shake it. I'm talking about just barely move it. They whack it because they feel like it's something that doesn't know they're there. And
and then after that, if it doesn't work, you slow roll it. And then
slow roll it.
Is they'll come up on it, and if they're not quite sure about it, they're pinned on it, and then they see it start to swim away, and it aggravates them, and then they go smash it. That's why I love the swim jig, because it's a very good, like, versatile, multifaceted bait that you can throw.
And you can throw it, get a bounce, scoot, scoot, pause, snatch it up off the bottom, start to reel it a little bit, and then let it swing back in, boom. Scoot, scoot, pause. You can get 3 or 4 of them out of one cast, and you're covering the entire water column.
Right.
And, man, I'm going to tell you right now, I've been using a Yama crawl on a swim jig to get that extra resistance and that extra surface area to get that lift so I can reel it a little bit slower. And it looks like a bluegill, like coming through the water. But it's a crawfish bait, but it's giving that bigger, thicker, that more pronounced pulse, whereas the shad's got a little vibration signature and a panfish has got that broader body, so they got a broader, vibration profile. They got a lower frequency but higher intensity. That's why Colorado blades, have historically done really well pre-spawn, through the brim spawn, post brim spawn, because they imitate a bluegill or a brim or that panfish body really well with that thicker, more pronounced, thump versus a flicker or a vibration. At least in my opinion,
Well, guys, we've been going for about an hour now. Chad, I know you got to get ready to get on the water. Hopefully you'll catch a 25-incher tonight, man. I want to see it on the new Yak Attack board, though.
Unfortunately, I got a bunch of the prototypes.
You don't have the new one?
So I didn't get – and rightfully so. I was like, send it to the other tournament directors. Yeah. But I didn't get one with the new double take tape on the front. And I don't have one that's got actually, hold on a second. Give me 1 minute.
You sent him down a rabbit hole on that.
Oh, yeah. But yeah,
so if you guys,
worth of knowledge
you guys
tonight,
can probably all go back and replay this one and start writing some stuff down.
So the ones I've got is what you do when you're prototype testing stuff. Is we've got different thicknesses, different orientations, different marks. So this was the process. See how this band right here is different. Yeah. Like we played with all of that with glare and with indicator markers here and alignment stuff. And so I've got 3 boards, but all of them are prototype markings instead of the official. And then like mine, you see how much more glare it's got? This is way shinier than the final version. And so instead of going out there and taking pictures that are going to get a lot of attention, I actually spoke to John today and said, hey, get me some, get me 2, one for me and one for Austin, like final version. I've got 2 other versions, one that's pretty close to the final version and one that's like really close, but it doesn't have the double take fence on it. And it doesn't have the leaderboard bracket for the identifier holder. But as soon as I get them, then I'm going to start using them and putting some big fish on it. But
gotcha.
Yeah, I think that turned out really well. I love the fact that this world we live in has got options. I'm a big fan of Catch. I love everything about Catch. Duke is not only a partner of mine, but like a really good, close personal friend. I think they saved Catch Photo Release at the time when the hog trough was
shit. That to Daniel earlier. Yep.
And so when that happened, if Catch hadn't been around, guys like myself and some of the other like leaders in the industry would have had a hard time propping up
Right.
the integrity of Catch Photo Release. So Catch did that. But there's so much more to Catch than just measuring boards. And, and it's not a vindictive thing that Yak Attack is making a leaderboard. It's like how business works,
Right.
and Duke and Luther both talk about it. And they're like, there's going to be some actual shared stuff between the two boards. And it's really what I love about this industry and especially our community is because outside a few clowns, for the most part, it's like a big family and everybody's trying to work towards everybody's, mutual benefit.
Right.
So, yeah.
That Yak Attack, that whole board, that leaderboard is like, you can tell somebody just didn't make a board to get into the market. Like you can tell
it was a year.
You could tell like the little touches, the cull tabs, the way it was designed. It was like
Right.
It was coolly designed with input from people who were like, man, I really wish the board had this or that, or like it just has those little tweaks that like I'm buying one as soon as I'm pretty sure. I think Slay Nation has approved it, and if they have, I'm buying one. If they haven't yet, that's the only reason why I don't have one is because it's not official yet in my trail. Otherwise, I'd already have it.
But
Well,
yeah,
they
Chad,
got 150 requests, and then the dealers ordered double what they anticipated for the initial order.
Yeah.
So they're kind of trying to fulfill dealer orders to take advantage of the consumer interest, and then simultaneously get them out to as many trail directors as possible. But I can tell you personally, I beat the crap out of this thing. I gave a whole bunch of feedback. In fact, some of the more advanced like features of this board were born of me and Luther like butting heads over some things about the board that initially, and it actually turned out to be a happy accident because I ended up getting a board that I think was shot with a lighter or less plastic, and so it was more flexible. And I was trying to explain how the board was flexing, and that led to the development of the double take fence tape. It was something I said, and Luther's like, hold on a second. And he's like, check your text. And he sent me a picture, and I was like, oh my God. And then, yeah. So little stuff like that, we've been doing this 30 years now. And then, little things like that come out that's like, heck yeah.
Right. It's just the little touches, like the ability to make it float. Yeah. Just make it float. Like it sounds like a simple thing, but if you lose a $60 board off the side of your kayak and just watch it sink to the bottom, you appreciate that foam that was added.
Or more than that, if you lose it when you still got 4 hours left in a tournament,
right,
and then you don't win $1,000 or $1,500 or $10,000 or whatever the number is. Oh yeah, trust me. It can be a problem.
The tournament trail I'm doing right now, where we have 0 fish. We can't even enter fish on Toniac, so we're doing basically a paper. So having a cold tap. So where we're fishing right now, my tournament trail, a lot of the lakes that we fish, there is like negative service. Like we would have to travel another location to submit fish. So we're literally doing old school photos on our phone, put them in an album, and hand them to the director. Having a cull tab to know what your smallest fish is means I don't have to go through my phone or write it down somewhere to figure out. I have a black mark right on the board that says, this is my smallest fish, so I know this one's bigger than that. And that right there is just a simple thing, but it's a huge thing when you're trying to save every second in a tournament so you can get one more cast to catch one more fish, is I don't have to dig into my phone to go look to see if that one beat my smallest.
That's right. Mm-hmm. But, Chad, hey, first of all, thank you for your time tonight. Great information. I've learned a lot from you just by this hour. If y'all don't know, he runs KBF. Go over there, fish some of his tournament series. You've got the Catch 22 going on. You've got what's the other one you got going on? The Knucklehead tournament. You still got your state challenges going on. So
if you don't know who this man is, you need to start watching some more YouTube, because this guy is everywhere on the YouTube world.
So you can find if there's somewhere that I wish you would start, that is to go to Fishing Chaos, search for Kayak Bass Fishing. When you get to the Kayak Bass Fishing page, click on this tournaments button right here. Once you click on that tournaments button, you're going to see I'm inside a block building right now, so that's why this was crap earlier. You're going to see this challenge called Fish Ops Catch 22 and Catch 5. Click on that, and when you see the 2020-24, click on that. Sign up for that. That's going to get you started. It's going to help you learn everything. It's for a ridiculously good cause. We're giving away kayaks every quarter. I just gave a kayak away, and the gentleman who won it donated it back. So we're about to give away a New Canoe Unlimited again in the Unlimited challenge, where you can catch as many fish as, kind of almost like Major League Fishing style. We can catch as many fish as possible. That ends the first time the last day of June. We've got 464 entries. We got 20,080 fish entered so far. Last year we did 22,350 in the whole year. It's June, about to be July, but we already have over 20,000. And so the more we can get, the more I can go to sponsors and say, hey, look at the impact. Look at how many people are participating. Marty Hughes has got 669 fish in just under 90 days. It'll be 90 days, June 30th. And then we're going to pick a winner. Every fish you enter is almost like a raffle ticket. Because what we do is we download all of the entries. It's called a ticket on Fishing Chaos. We download all the tickets, randomize, and draw the ticket number. And the fish associated with that ticket number is going to win a New Canoe Unlimited. Every quarter we give away a kayak for being part of the Catch 22 challenge. It's $22 to fish all year long. 25% goes to us managing and running the event and judging and all that. 25% goes directly to the charity. And then we take 50% and buy prizes and carrot on the stick to put back into the challenge series so that we can grow the challenge series better and bigger. Instead of just having our hand out to sponsors, we're reaching out to them and saying, can we buy product from you? Which then in subsequent years, they give you more. And so my goal is to turn this thing into $100,000+ event each year over the next 2 to 3 years. And we're at 25,000 this year. We're at 22,000 last year. Hopefully we can hit a stride and be around 50 next year, 75, 100 to get to that 100K range inside of the next 3 years. But the only way we can do that is if you guys can do us a favor and go sign up for the Catch 22 challenge. It's fun. You can have little challenges between you and your buddies. And me and my son are going back and forth right now. There's some other guys in Alabama that are in there competing with us, and we're all having fun. And honestly, it's why I'm going fishing tonight, because I done got like addicted to this crap just like everybody else. And now I'm sitting here going, I got to get an upgrade, man. I'm like Dave Chappelle and them old things. I got to get me some upgrades,
A lot of the guys in my my local trail are in that, and they're like heckling each other at the weigh-in because they got their butt beat in that tournament, but the guy that got his butt beat is 2 positions ahead of the guy that beat him. Exactly. And he's like, yeah, but dude, that 22, man, I'm still ahead of you. Yeah. And it's funny to watch.
Fun, man. It's really fun. So anyway, y'all, thank you guys for having me tonight. And we can sit here for 5 hours and talk. And
I got to be at work at 4:00 in the morning. So
Daniel, I will hit you up when I'm headed back to Savannah, and we'll get together and do some fishing.
Yeah, man. I'm ready for it, man. I'll take you some tidal water down here on the.
I love it.
Yep. Thank you, Chad, once again. Everybody, thank you for your time. As always, wear your PFD when you're out on the water.
Always.